I want to start out by a list of acknowledgments here. It's kind of typical for a speech like this. And when I read through this list, just think about all the different ways that people can get involved in the community. And they're represented here. What a crew in this room, right? So I want to say thank you to our elected officials who are here, Kurt Kirchner, school board members, school administrators, our West Liberty City Council. Thank you for joining us. I love this city council. Our city administrators, city manager Lee Gertz and team, leadership from West Liberty Foods and other local businesses, business leaders, property developers and managers, local faith community leaders, nonprofit leaders. Think about this list. Civic and volunteer organizations, members and supporters of our first responders, police, fire, and EMS, and a special thanks, of course, to WeLead for offering this venue for this address. And then to everybody in the community of West Liberty, thank you for being here. It's a good list, isn't it? There's a lot of ways to get involved in the community, and we're represented here. I'm happy to announce that the state of the city is stable. I know you were expecting me to say strong, weren't you? It's more typical. But I'd like to take after Jerry and say it like it is, okay? I appreciate that about Jerry. And I think it's important to have a candid assessment, okay? And so we've had some bumps in the road over the past few years. So my assessment is stable, all right? When I decided to step in and take the role as mayor, put my name in the hat for that job, really, that was my goal, is just to look at how can we bring some stability into the community. In order to build, you have to have a strong foundation, right? So sometimes the foundation needs to be repaired and stabilized before you can continue to grow. So that has kind of been my vision and goal for this time right here where we are. I'm told that this is the first state of the city since the 1970s. So I thought maybe it would be good if we take a minute and look at the lay of the land, all right? So pop quiz then. When was the city of West Liberty incorporated? 1855. Oh my goodness. Can someone on the Heritage Foundation straighten this out for us? I just literally heard 3 dates, okay? The date that I have is in 1968. 1868. Somebody straighten that out for us?
Because we thought we were incorporated, but we weren't.
That's 1886. It took 18 years to fix a mistake that apparently, there's a little trivia piece for you if you don't know this one. The paperwork was filed in Muscatine, but apparently didn't make it all the way to the state of Iowa. So 18 years later, there's some newspaper articles where they said, we're not officially incorporated, and that happened later. 1868, 1886. Those are the dates that I have. Somebody do some research and let's get those nailed down, okay? All right, the settlement here, as Jerry said, originally in the north and then moved down to the railroad tracks, was originally meant to be called Wapsanonik, like the Wapsanonik Township, right? So Wapsanonik was the original name of the settlement. Hang on to that word. We're going to come back to that later. It's currently 1.74 square miles of land. And I think we might see that expand as we go. Population is 3,858 as of 2020 redistricting data. And it's over 58% Hispanic currently. Now, you know, we got national attention in 2010, as of the 2010 census, for being the first community in Iowa to be majority Hispanic. That census had us at 52.2%. So we've grown to over 58% since then. It was really interesting to hear the list of nationalities and heritages and languages spoken at the West Liberty Foods crew. That's really interesting. I'm also proud to serve with the very first majority Latino city council in the state of Iowa. I'd like, if you wouldn't mind giving them a hand. That's a significant thing. By the way, how many of you know the difference between the words Hispanic and Latino? We kind of use those interchangeably, don't we? Somewhat? Someone raised their hand. 2 people raised their hand. I certainly didn't know. I think most of us probably don't know. But in my life, I have a secret weapon. Okay, and so if you want to know the answer to that, you can ask her, my secret weapon. Yes, right here, my wife Bethany. She'll explain it to you, all right? Okay, I want to ask you to use your imagination with me for a minute. I'm going to build a metaphor for us to think about. You're at the ocean. You're at the shore of the ocean, and I want you to think about two things. First of all, there are boats that are out on the water. Those boats represent the projects in this community, businesses, developments, investments. And then there's the water, and that's the environment, that's the community itself, the economic climate, just the overall climate that those projects live inside of. Are you with me? So there's out there, I see one nice yacht that's out on the water, and it's a very nice yacht. It smells like pizza, fresh pizza. And on the back, Deepak and Amrita Giri projects, right? Okay, seems to get a little bigger every year. There's another boat, pleasure craft, very tidy. It's it's a bit smaller, but it's very nice. You can tell it's a very well run boat. If you go close to it, and the wind is kind of wafting in your direction, you say, "Are those fresh mayotas and coffee?" El Jibarito Bakery, it says, on the side, right? And you get the feeling they're going to buy a bigger boat probably pretty soon. Doing well. Over here, there's a port on the horizon, and this is why this metaphor has to be the ocean, not a river, okay? Because in the port, right, there's a massive ocean liner, right? It's blue, it's green, West Liberty Foods, okay? $1 billion ship there, right? These are the projects, these are the businesses in our community. All right, what about the water? Before I go to the water, actually, we also have to imagine the boats that are on the shore, okay? There's boats that are on the shore and docked, ready to go out, maybe. Then let's think about the water. The water is the environment that these projects live in. The city government has some control over the environment. We've heard a lot about that already. How easy is it to do a project in the city of West Liberty? And there's a lot of different things that the city government, as you said, if a developer calls City Hall, is that a roadblock, or does that smooth it out, right? It's a good point. I had to stop myself from saying careful.
Perfect.
But there's permitting, there's regulation, there's zoning, right? There's fees, there's how easy is it to get connected to utilities. As you know, the municipal government, the taxpayers own the electric utility, and so all of those things are kind of managed by City Hall. There's also quality of life things, there's Parks and Rec, there's also public safety things, police, fire, EMS. And actually, it's much broader than just City Hall. It's also the entire community. It's the attitude of the entire community. And I love, again, Jerry, what you said about just being positive about the community. That plays a role in the shape of the water. The question is the water choppy or is the water smooth? And all of those ship captains or boat owners are standing on the bow of their boat, and the boats that are docked and looking out at the water, they see the other boats in the water, and they're asking themselves the question, is the water choppy or is the water smooth? If you ever go out on the river or on lakes around here, then you know the drill, right? It's Saturday, you check the weather, you make your plans, you go out to the edge of the water, and I'm not a huge boater, but I've been there. You go to the edge of the water, and we're not going to go out today. How many of you have ever done that? You see the water, it's choppy. You say, I'm just not going to go today. But if the water is smooth, then not only do you go, you get excited, right? I mean, you imagine the scene. The beach is full of people, the sun is shining, you get there, you pull your boat down, you put it in the water, you have your lemonade. I know that's what you all drink when you're boating. And you throw your inner tubes out the back. When the water's smooth, you can not only do you go, you're excited, and you can go fast. If the water's choppy, even if you do go, you have to go very, very slow. But if the water's smooth, you can go fast. So, you get the metaphor there? Our job as local government and as local community leaders is to make the water smooth. My wife and I took our 3 kids canoeing a while back at a lake in Iowa City. I think we might have been a little ambitious that day. They were pretty young. Took them out, rented canoes. We were too many to fit in one canoe because, 5 of us, over capacity. So, all right, 2 canoes. That's fine. We can both handle a canoe. Bethany with 1 of our kids, me with 2 of the kids. We go out into the water. Why do I feel like you all know where this story's going? You get out to the middle, the wind picks up, the water starts to get choppy. We were out there just enjoying a leisurely paddle around the lake, and at some point we look at each other and think, we should probably head back. Turn the canoe around, start going back to the dock. Well, of course, the wind would not be blowing toward the dock. It's blowing away from the dock. And if you've ever been in a canoe, you put your back into it for a few minutes, and it's like, all right, I know I can get to that dock. It's just going to be an hour of hard work with no breaks, or you lose ground, right? And by the way, by this time it's getting really interesting because one kid is taking off his life jacket and one is standing up and rocking the boat and the other one is screaming because he wants to be in the other boat with the other parent. And it's no fun to be in the rocky water. You see what I mean? Nobody wants to be in that situation. We made it. We went all the way to the other end of the lake and we came around the edge. It wasn't a leisurely stroll. But look, in the past we've had, as has been said, we've had that problem here. We've had developers and people with projects and investors with money who've come and said, we want to build something. And they look at the water in West Liberty, it's a little too choppy for me. I'm just not going to go out today. And so our goal and our vision is to make the water smooth. It has been building. It has been building for a while. When my wife and I first moved here 12, almost 13 years ago, the downtown had a lot of empty storefronts in it. It was not in good shape. A lot of empty storefronts. And we bought our building during those days in the downtown, and I just love those old downtown buildings. It's just so fun now to see that so many of them are coming back to life. Ours, by the way, our building is right across from Fred's Feet, and that's what I always tell people, right? Like, where are we? We're 111 West 3rd Street. How do you find it? Drive down 3rd Street. We're right across from Fred's Feet. Everybody knows Fred's Feet. It's a perfect landmark. If they don't have it, you don't need it, right? One day I walked over to Fred's Feet and I told these guys, I'm just so glad you're here. We use you as a landmark. We don't have to tell people our address. We just tell people, you go down 3rd Street, we're right across from Fred's Feet. And they laughed and they looked at me, the guys behind the counter, they said, well, I don't know what it says about our clientele, but we always say, we're across from Wink's Bar. Those guys are great. Okay, some specific problems that we have had. I'm just going to kind of list briefly. There's definitely been some community unrest, right? Something that makes the water choppy. We've had problems with management. This town has always had a hard time finding and retaining city management and administration that has a long-term dedication to the community. Staffing challenges. We've seen some of that, especially recently, like in the electric department. It's been hard to find staff. Competitive pay and benefits. It's been hard to staff some of those important infrastructure pieces, and at City Hall, there have been some struggles with that. Development roadblocks. Some developers have looked at the city and said, it's easier to build somewhere else. Financial constraints. The budget of the city, it's about $14 million budget currently, and it has grown over the years, but realize there's an ever-increasing need for more services, requests for more services to be provided, more amenities. The budget doesn't grow at the same pace that the request and the need for services. Until the tax base grows, until the city grows, there's no way it can keep up with the demand. And I'll give you one very specific example. City manager Gertz messaged me one day and said, well, My task for today is to find about $1 million to cut out of the budget requests. Because there's a lot of things we'd like to do, but we just can't do them. One of the things that didn't make it was the pickleball court. Fastest growing sport in America, and I know there are a lot of local players. How fun would that be to have? We want that here, right? But just couldn't find it, unfortunately, this year in the budget. Maybe we can squeeze it in at the school. Let's do that. The city, I want to make a point of this while I talk about that. The city financially is strong. The city is healthy financially. But we want to keep it that way. And so that's why we can't overspend. Okay, some solutions. Number one, investing in people. Everyone knows, every leader knows that people are always the key. You can have a poorly funded project, you can have a well-funded project with poor management and it'll fail. You can have a poorly funded project with scrappy, dedicated, committed leadership and it'll work, right? People are always the key. And City Council made a bold decision recently to hire from within for the city manager position. And in doing that, they chose somebody who is strong in the way that many previous city managers have been weak, which is an absolute proven dedication and commitment to the city of West Liberty. City Hall has spent a lot of time straightening out the organizational chart, and particularly for the roles inside of City Hall, it's now a perfect time to do some reworking. Over the years, they've become a little bit convoluted with some overlap, and now staff is working hard to kind of look at how that's structured, make sure that everybody's in their most efficient role, everybody's in their best fit role, and it's exciting to see how that is unfolding. Looking at job descriptions, all the policies related to that, and even the wage matrix, making sure that we're able to hire and retain the best people. We're investing in community development, and improvement is solution number 2. This predates me, but in 2020, the City Council implemented this local grant program that Ken talked about. That thing, that's one of the, maybe I'm biased because I think I was the first one to receive one, actually. Full disclosure. But I said from the beginning, that's one of the best things the city has ever done. And the reason is because it's set up right. It's easy. It's not, you don't have to jump through a million hoops to get the grant. For property owners who want to make improvements, they make it relatively quick to get the money into your hands, right? Now, you start to see this synergy happening, right? So maybe a property owner would spend $25,000 to update their own property, but now the city will match that with the grant. You have $50,000. Well, that pool can be used as matching funds for one of these catalyst grants. So all of a sudden, you might have a $250,000 project because of the synergy that happens. Those grants can kind of piggyback off of each other. And since we're now in the after Ken days of West Liberty, you know what you get it, right? Yeah. After Ken? Okay. It hasn't quite stuck. I said it will, maybe it will stick. It hasn't quite stuck. Yeah. Ken has done so much, and WeLead has been instrumental in managing those grants, as you know, as Ken just displayed. So City Hall, the city organization has decided to increase our investment into WeLead. So it was $53,500, now it's going to be $78,500 to just continue advancing the work of WeLead. So it's definitely something that the city sees the value in. 70 new homes. We would have been happy some years with 7. 17 would have felt amazing. Now we're looking at 70 new homes. Let's see, other investments. We are following a capital improvement plan. Someone on Naughty Circle Drive reached out and said, have you seen this street? And, you can't respond this way to everybody who reaches out like that. But City Hall, I think, was very happy to be able to say, guess what? You're getting a brand new street. It's already on the list. Yeah, thank you. There you go. Naughty Circle Drive, Gibson Street, and Division, in between those two, will be brand new with sidewalk improvements. And that's just, it's part of a capital improvement plan that is already laid in place. So we won't have to just piecemeal these projects around town, but they're laid out in a structure that was set up in 2020 by the City Council. Rainbow Drive and Maxon Street, you've already seen the work that's happening out here, $2.3 million project, actually less than originally expected, which you don't hear very often. Includes a nice walking trail there from the sports complex up to where there's going to be 45 plus new homes in that area, and then across to Subway. This will get sidewalk connectivity all the way down. We have to have sidewalk connectivity. You know, that's my soapbox. Got to be able to walk to work. We need to be able to walk to Dutton Park safely. So we're working on that. You know, Jay Simon lives on that road, and his family owns All American Concrete. Well, they got the bid to do that street, but he came to the City Council meeting, and I asked him if he wanted to say anything. He said, I just want to say, I was more nervous to submit that bid than any other bid I've ever submitted. And if I would have lost that bid and seen some other company do the work right in front of my house, I don't know what I would have done. I couldn't live with myself. A few things just to mention that are on the capital improvements plan. Railroad Park is going to get some playground equipment. We're still working on lighting for Dutton Complex, and that's a future project. And I know everyone's favorite, one piece of equipment that's on the list is a new leaf sucker. Leaf vacuum. Crowd favorite. Investing in public safety. The American Rescue Plan Act funding, in addition to the utility bill relief, $120,000, which was a great project that went for utility billing as well as some money to the school foundation and the food pantry, local food pantry. Also, a section of that money, $100,000, went to a new ambulance, and $100,000 went toward 2 new police cars. I'm very conservative when it comes to spending money, and I quizzed the police chief, do we really need those squad cars? And he showed me the list of how often we saw it in the council meeting, how often they're in the shop. And yes, we need those police cars. So you see the one new black SUV now around town, and one more to go. We are continuing to make progress on a new arrangement for fire and EMS services. I don't know what exactly that's going to look like. Nobody does. And I also don't know exactly what the timeline is. It's a long project. It's a complicated project. And you need to resist the urge to put a date on it, because we don't quite know yet. The task force is working diligently. They're making good progress. I think people are tired of hearing that, and I think the task force is tired of thinking that. But it's a long process, isn't it, council member? And dream about it. I don't doubt that you do. But here's the thing. In the meantime, I think you'd agree with me, the relationships between these organizations are returning to a much better state. That's the long and the short of it. And I feel like no matter what happens in the future, that has to happen, and it is happening. So that's the best progress report you could ever get about that situation. One more point that we're doing for solutions, changing the conversation. And again, I would refer back to what you said, Jerry. I think that's absolutely true. It's probably easy to underestimate how much it matters, the way that we talk about our city, the way that we talk about our community. It's very easy to complain. Anybody complain, but only the leaders will take the effort to have a positive attitude. And one thing that I really like seeing, if you're on the Voices of West Liberty Facebook group that Jacob Burrows runs, sometimes people will go on there and say, hey, I'm new in town. Just want to introduce myself. And I love those posts because people just go on there and say, you're going to love this town. This is a great town. People are so friendly. Here's what you need to do. Check out this restaurant. Dude. And it's like a wellspring of positivity when someone is new in the community and they pile on the good things about the community. And I just love seeing that. And I think that's a good example of what we can do. That's something that we all need to play a role in helping just continue, keep that ball rolling. And I think we're going to see that when it comes to city government. We had a meeting with property developers and city officials recently. And one of those property developers told me after that meeting, he said, I felt so good after that meeting. He said, I felt like I got things off my chest. We got things sorted out. We had good communication. I like the plan moving forward. I think it's going to be smooth sailing. And I thought to myself, what better signal of where a town is headed than if you would have a meeting with investors and property developers, and that would be the response, right? So we are changing the conversation about this community, and I would just invite you to be a part of that. Have you heard the phrase planting widow? This I really would like to know. Have you actually heard that phrase? I had not. Okay, I was worried it was just me. A friend of my wife, who lives on a farm, told her the other day, I'm a planting widow this season because her husband is spending so many long hours in the field planting. You work those 14, 16-hour days, whatever they work to get the seeds in the ground. And she said, I'm a planting widow. I believe that cities go through seasons just like farms do. And right now, I would say we are in what you might call a planting season in the city. And some seasons require more work than other seasons. This one requires work. And I'm reminded of that when I walk by City Hall at 8 p.m. and I see the lights on and cars in the parking lot. Because we're working. We're doing the work to create the smooth water in the community. You remember that the town originally was meant to be called Wapsanonoc. Do you know what that means? It's a Native American word, of course, a Native American name, and it means, according to a researcher, Irving Richmond, who did some research work on that, it means a meandering stream with a smooth surface. So I think that's a really nice thought for us, isn't it? We can, together in this room, be a part of the Wapsanonoc, the smooth water that is coming and is beginning to be built in the city of West Liberty. Let's go.